talaga gearing up for a strong investment conviction. Because I am seeing most of the good analysts, most of the good investment managers, and obviously Miguel and Carlos are at the forefront of that group. Little by little, we're seeing consensus, confirmation. It's unlike last year that people are saying we're about to recover soon, and then another group will say no, there are new variants and stuff like that. There are naysayers. Today, there are a little bit of that, but not as much as we had them last year. So, anong problema? Bakit hindi pa tayo nag-i-invest? So, let me focus on this. The real issue for me is the investor himself. And I'd always like to quote this coming from one of my idols in investment management. And, maybe, quite frankly, I would have read his book over 5 times already. Benjamin Graham is also the idol of one of the best investors, probably the best investor that ever lived, Warren Buffett. And Benjamin Graham says the investor's chief problem, and even his worst enemy, is likely to be himself. So that's where I'm going to be concentrating on as I discuss strategies for growth. Because we, quite frankly, are always the impediment for that. And I don't know with you, but I hope you can be honest enough to identify with this. Diba? Nangyayari sa atin ito. Oy, may trend paakyat yung market. Diba? I will now buy it because I'm going to ride the trend or else I might be too late. So, pag sakay mo, umakyat ng konti. And then happy-happy ka, you confirm it. Thankfully, I bought. Thankfully, I positioned. Then after a while, there was a bit of a dip. Uy, bumaba. Bili pa ako. Bumaba pa uli. Oh, I'm going to double down. This is great. I can average down. And then it continues to go down and you become worried. What is wrong with this? What is happening? And then dadating yung time na sabi ko na nga ba, dapat hindi ko na pinasok ito. Dapat hindi na ako nag-invest. Diba? And then we make such a bad set of reactions. Again, is it the market or is it the reaction? So, bad set of reactions, ayoko na. Capitulation, despondency, these are the usual emotions that happen at that bottom pit. So, nagbenta. Then, umakyat ng konti. Hindi. Pabagsak uli yan. Ayan, bumagsak nga. Kita mo na. Sabi ko na nga ba eh. Diba? And then, it goes up. Bababa uli yan. Pero this time, hindi na bumaba. Tumutuloy na. Tumutuloy na siya. Now, what's happening? Don't I know something I should know? It's going up. What's happening here? Tapos at a certain point, saka lang tayo mag-iisip, sige na nga, mas mura pa naman than before. You're gonna cajole yourself because you practically missed out on all of it. Many of us have the right strategy. We just don't have enough patience to make it work. Many of us are focused on the right investment journey, but we get scared. We fall on the wayside because we get overcome by our emotions. I always say this. Most of my friends who are chief financial officers of companies, they always do well for the money of their corporations. But for their own money, they don't do as much. And why is that? Because when you're handling the money of the company, you're going to be very objective about it. If you're handling your own money, there are such things as greed, fear, things that get in the way in terms of strategizing and making your investments do their thing. And I can tell you quite frankly, that happens to the best of us. Pag hindi natin pera, and I can say this probably of Miguel and Carlos, since hindi nila pera yung pera ng fund, they can be very objective. They are not as emotionally attached. Now, look at this line, ha? Tingnan nyo ito. Parang itsurang ganito di ba? It's almost like it came from a book. But siguro nagkaroon lang ng konting difference in a bit of magnitude, but it looks the same, right? And this is exactly what's happening to a lot of people. This is like the PSEI from the start of the year. And, when it dropped straight away from January up till May, di ba, nandyan yung capitulation, nandyan yung despondency. Di ba? Wala pa yung vaccine, na-delay yung vaccine. We think about so many reasons to scare ourselves and avoid it. Until dadating na naman yung consensus, when people are exactly braver, saka sila papasok. Nakakatuwa because I'm just an observer in another webinar like this, just early this week. And it's quite funny because they presented exactly what Carlos presented. The market will probably be at around 7,600 to 7,800 by the end of the year, which is exactly 600 to 700 points. There's still like 10% to be made, right? But the projection was next year, 8.6 to 8.8. So dun malaki yung kita. So nakakatuwa, most people are looking forward to investing next year. But ganon. Di ba? See, if you're going to be looking at where you are today and where they're projecting it next year, di ba dun malaki yung kita? Pero dahil people are looking at 7.6 to 7.8 by the end of the year, ayaw nila mag-invest ngayon, next year na lang. So mataas na yung base mo. Hindi mo na makukuha yung ganong klaseng kita. So I kind of find that amusing. But clearly, we tend to be the problem. Nami-miss out natin, dito tayo nakatingin eh. Ito yung takot eh. Nami-miss out natin pag lumalabas yung ganyan. You know what? That is called confirmation bias. When you are of a certain conviction, right? And some indicators, some signals point to a reversal, your mind will actually negate that. If it doesn't confirm what you believe in, your mind sometimes avoids that. Ever try Googling a question? Di ba, nag-google ka, may nire-research ka, nag-google ka? Doon sa lahat ng lalabas na choices, alam mo ang pipiliin mo are mostly those articles, those researches that you agree with. You're not going to be looking at what is against what you already believe. And for that reason, ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you that people aren't really made up to be great investors. Kaya, yang sila Miguel, yang sila Carlos, they have to go through a real rigid education, training, and experience process before they become real top-notch investment managers. How they can downplay this kind of psychological impairments. Ayan, sabi nila marami tayong psychological impairments because it's all a matter of attitude, culture, and behavior. Money is not technical. It is behavioral. So since we're not wired, baka mas mabuti pa hindi na tayo maghawak ng pera. Baka mas mabuti pa sa iba nyo na ipahawak yung pera para maging objective. Or, and I can tell you, okay pa din naman na mag-trade tayo. Pero it's not for our future goals. It's not for our real, important milestones in our lives. Our child's education, the house for the family, the funds for business, retirement. You cannot put that at risk. So you'd rather have that dealt with by someone who's really trained to do it. But let me prove my point. Alam niyo, maganda dito talaga na puprove. And I hope na makisama tayong lahat dahil mahirap pong gawin ito pag hindi face-to-face. But nonetheless, I still have to do it because I'm going to be attempting an exercise just to prove a point. Because if I say it, medyo may mga kukontra sa atin. Pero when I go through that process, I let people really go through the experience, so to speak. So let me tell you, people are people. Because of the fact that we are humans, good people make bad choices. Not because they're bad people, but because they're human. So, lahat daw tayo, merong tinatawag na psychological impairments, as I've said. Do you know that those psychological impairments total over 100? I am just listing what here, about 6. Most common in the field of finance and investments. But there are over 100 psychological impairments that we will have to overcome. And to prove a point, sana nga makisama tayo. Let's play some game here. I think you all know what this is. This is the Eiffel Tower. How many rivets were used in the building of the Eiffel Tower? Ayan. Ang ganda ng tanong. Huwag niyong i-google. Kasi I'm not after the right answer. I'm not really after the right answer. I'm after how we are going to be answering it. So, again, on the chat box, para naman maganda yung hulaan natin, give me a range. A high number and a low number. Hopefully, pumasok doon yung tamang number of rivets used in the building of the Eiffel Tower. Can I see the chats now? Can I see people now? Kung anong sagot nyo, give me a range, a high number and a low number so that makita natin yung mga hula natin dito. Okay? Okay, 15,000 to 20,000, 1 to 2 million, 250,000, 1 million, tingnan nyo ha, sinabi ko ng range eh. Alam nyo dito, kitang-kita. Okay, thank you so much. Ang galing po ng mga sagot natin. Talagang pinruwebahan nyo yung topic ko today. Kitang-kita po yung pruweba natin. Let me tell you this. The answer, and as I've said, it's irrelevant. No? The answer is 2.5 million. 2.5 million rivets that connect 12,000 metal pieces. The Eiffel Tower has 12,000 metal pieces joined by 2.5 million rivets. Ayan. Yan ang mga tamang sagot. Pero sabi ko nga, hindi naman yung sagot ang relevant. Ang sagot dito kung paano natin sinagot. Ang gusto nating outcome is how we answered it, di ba? Sabi ko range. Kasi alam naman natin, hindi natin alam yung tamang sagot eh. So dapat range. Okay? Tingnan nyo yung range ng iba. 10,000 to 20,000, 100,000 to 200,000. Bakit ang nipis? Bakit ang nipis? Gusto nyo maging tama? Di ba ang dali? 1 to 1 billion. O di tama. Di ba? Alam nyo, hindi nyo gagawin yun eh. Kasi pag sinabi nyo 1 to 1 billion, ano itsura? Hindi kayo matalino. Siguradong tama kayo, pero hindi kayo matalino. Ang matalino, medyo narrow ang kanyang guess. Kasi talagang pag narrow daw ang guess mo, mas may alam ka. Ayun nga lang, dahil sa pagka-narrow ng guess mo, mali ang sagot mo. Di ba ang usapan? You just have to come up with a range. So you could have captured the right answer by just coming up with a blowout range. But we don't do that. In fact, some of you even came up with an answer that's perfect. 1 million, 100,000, di ba? 3 million. Bay, sigurado, hinihingian ko na nga ng range. Ang binigay, numero lang. So, ibig sabihin, eksakto. So, that proves to show that we are all guilty of overconfidence and what I call the halo effect. Hindi ba? Kasi pag may halo effect ka, talagang dapat magmukhang intelligent ka. Di ba? Kahit minsan, hindi natin alam ang sagot sa isang bagay, we'd like to come up with what we call an educated guess, even if it's wrong. And that's the reason why, because of that lack of knowledge, sometimes we follow others. Then it becomes herding. It becomes herding. Or sometimes it becomes anchoring. Nakita ko na to dati. Ganitong-ganito nangyari. So I will be following this. Not knowing that it's a totally different situation altogether. You're not supposed to anchor that. You'll have to analyze and research that particular event. So talagang lahat pala tayo may kanya-kanyang baggage when it comes to investments. And we will have to be able to tweak and control that if we want to be successful. So if you'd want to elevate your conviction of a real strategic track in growing your portfolio, you have to be controlling your emotions. And one of the other things to control is our loss aversion. Loss aversion. Ito ipoprove ko. Meron pa akong isang game. Meron pa akong isang game. Okay, how many of you will be willing to play this game with me? I mean, it's very simple. It's called a coin flip. Ayan, coin flip exercise. Okay? Sana maganda ito physically. I could have called one of you in front and then magko-coin game kami o coin flip game. Ito napakaganda nitong coin na to. This is a 1908 coin. Abay, mukhang malaki palang value ng coin na ito. Anyway, this is actually a silver American coin from 1908. Anyway, so dapat magko-coin flip lang tayo. Ganito lang kasimple yan, Ganitong kasimple yan. Pag tao, panalo ka. Ayan. Pag heads, you win, I give you 5,000 pesos. Are you willing to play the game now? Pero teka lang, bago ka mag-decide, patapusin mo muna ako dun sa instruction. Pag heads, you win 5,000 pesos. Pag tails, you lose, you pay me 5,000 pesos. Oh, sinong makikipaglaro sa akin? Sinong may gusto makipaglaro ng coin flip game na ganon? Di ba? Pag nag-flip tayo, tao, wala daw. Wala daw makikipaglaro sa akin. Kasi nga, di ba? Think about it. There is a 50% chance to lose 5,000. 50% chance. Pero there's a 50% chance to win 5,000. Is it a fair game? It is fair. It is a fair game. You know why you don't want to play? Because of the propensity of losing. The possibility of losing. Kahit fair yung game na yan, ayaw mong matalo. So, anyway, palitan natin itutuloy ko ito. Itutuloy ko itong game na ito dahil yun nga 50% mananalo ka ng 5,000, 50% matatalo ka ng 5,000. Ayaw nyo yan. Okay, so babaguhin natin. Pag tao, panalo ka. 10,000. 10,000 pag nanalo ka. Okay? Pag ibon, panalo ako. 5,000 na lang. Yan. Talo ka ng 5,000. Pag nagtao, panalo ka, 10,000. O, sino na makikipaglaro sa akin nun? Sino na makikipaglaro? Okay, Cybrances game. Okay? May mga me. Pero alam nyo, marami pa rin diyang ayaw. Bakit? Kasi pag umibon, talo ka pa rin ng 5,000 Di ba? Kasi alam nyo, sa utak nyo, ganito pa rin dapat yan Di ba? Ganito yan. May 50% chance ka to win 10,000. Pero yung 50% chance mo to lose 5,000, ang expected value niyan 2,500 lang. So in fact, the game is in your favor. Yung game natin, lamang ka dun. Lamang ka. Pwede kang manalo. Pero karamihan sa atin, alam nyo, hindi sasali. Bakit? Kasi ang nasa utak nyo, ganito. 50-50 pa rin yan Pwede pa rin akong 50% matalo ng 5,000. Even if the game is constructed to favor me, I am still worried. Kasi pag nanalo ako, 10,000. Pero pag napunta ako dun sa 50% at natalo ko, 5,000 pa rin di ang sakit pa din nun, di ba? So, ayaw nating matalo. Many people, many investors are risk averse. Unfortunately, in the real realm of investing, they are risk takers. Yun po ang irony ng Pilipinong investor. Why am I saying that? Because of this. We don't want to lose. Kaya yung mga may pera, nasa bangko. Natutulog sa 30-day, 60-day time deposit. If you're going to be looking at the deposit accounts, they're over 12.5 trillion in deposit accounts in this country. They are not mobilized because people are risk averse. So they say, pero pag yan pumasok sa investments, papasukan yan. Lahat ng scam, lahat ng cryptocurrency, lahat ng napaka-risky. Bakit? Kasi konti lang ang tinatabi. Pag konti ang tinatabi, kailangan malaking kita. That's the irony of the Filipino investor. So, ano po ang susi dito? So, let me tell you what the solution is. Kasi may solution nito May solution nito. Remember, this game is loaded in your favor. Over time, we all know the stock market is the best performing asset class. To be part of it is a great thing. Unfortunately, we don't because many of us get burnt. And when we get burnt, we avoid it. So ano po ang solution? Ang solution ito, sige, Boss Rex, laro tayo. Laro tayo nung coin toss mo. Pero instead of doing it once, let's do it 100 times. Ayan! 100 times! Mag-flip tayo ng coin 100 beses. What will happen? The formula now works in your favor because you're gonna be doing it 100 times. Kasi yung isang beses, delikado eh. Baka umibon, talo ka ng 5,000, tapos na. Pero pag 100 beses tayo magko-coin toss, guess what happens? Mathematically, it's so difficult for you to lose. The expected value of the game becomes 250,000 because 50% of the time you will win 10,000, 50% of the time you will lose 5,000. So the expected value of the game becomes 250,000. At para matalo ka, ang risk of losing 1/2,300. Yan na lang yung probability mo of losing. If you do the coin toss 100 times, probability mo of losing money is 1/2,300. Abay, napakalaki na ng balat mo sa puwet para matalo ka. Di ba? So, what's the outcome here? Imbis na one time, big time ang mga investment mo, tuloy-tuloy mo lang. Di ba? Balikan mo yung 2020. Balikan mo yung Marso nung nag-drop. Kung tuloy-tuloy ka lang, linggo-linggo, buwan-buwan, every quarter, naglagay ka lang ng pera sa mga mutual funds natin. Di ba? Malaki na ang kita mo by now. Pag iniwasan mo yung emosyon, dito ka na lang sa mathematical, dito ka na lang, tuloy-tuloy lang. Di ba? And that's why I'm saying it to a lot of people. History repeats itself. People never learn. Ilang crisis na yan na nagdaan. So ang kalaban natin, ang ating sarili. Many people saw this as a market to avoid. They don't see over time. Pag diluwingan mo yan, saan papunta? Yun nga lang, hindi mo mahagip yung taas at babae. So bakit mo pa susubukang hagipin? What you need to do is to strategize, to make it a disciplined journey. Tuloy-tuloy ka lang. Hayaan mo yung market to unfold itself. Trabaho nila Miguel at nila Carlos to create as much value for you. But your job is to continue investing. That is your job. And because of what's happening, nagkakaroon ka ng lenses, nagkakaroon ka ng perspectives. Sabi nila last year, the market will crash. Ayan real estate. One of the facets of the investment world, an asset class that we all know. Anong sabi last year? The stock market will crash. The real estate market will crash also. Asan yung crash? Baka hindi crash, baka crash. Kung na-inlove ka dyan sa mga yan, tingnan mo, umaakyat na nga Hindi ba? Na-miss out natin. We were spooked when it happened this way. And Miguel said that. The banks became stiff. They were very selective. They lost the appetite for lending. You think that's a long period? Guess what's happening today? Ganyan na ngayon. Bumalik na. So kailan tayo papasok pag bumalik na? Or sana before pa. Guys, we still have the opportunity to see this through. It is about to be back to where it came from. But does that mean it's too late? No, it's not too late. It will be too late 2 to 3 years from now. This is exactly the way we feel. That's why a lot of people will ask me, how do you feel about this market? Alam nyo pag nagagaganon ako, naaamoy ko 2009. Naaamoy ko yung 1998. Anong relevant doon? These are the years after a crisis. Don't make it become 2012. Don't make it become 2001 or 2002. 2 to 4 years after a crisis, asset values always recover. Alam nyo, laging sabi ng mga tao, sayang, sana, puro ganun Di ba? And Mind you, not a lot of us even started it. Baka hopefully, yung mga mananalo sa inyo ng SOLDIVO initial investments, sabay, may nanalo na 4. Marami pang mananalo mamaya. Baka naman yung 1,000 yan, 3 to 5 years from now, 1,000 pa din. Di ba? Kailangan po dito, kaya lang namin gustong parang laro lang na magbigay ng premyo para makapag-umpisa eh. But it's still your job to follow through. Okay? The mind does not follow facts. The mind does not mind facts. Facts are stubborn things, but the mind is more stubborn. It is more stubborn. Ozan Varol. May kumalat na article sa Viber. Pero ito, ginagamit nila for pushing the candidacy of a presidential vote. Diba? And some people share this article of Ozan Varol. And it says, facts does not change minds. Facts never change minds. Kung gusto mong baguhin ang paniniwala ko, don't inundate me with facts. Give me an opportunity to turn around my beliefs first before I can absorb the facts you tell me. You have to give the mind an excuse. The mind needs an out. Kailangan, bago maniwala sa mga bagong reversal, before we believe in a, converted belief system or value system, we will have to get down with assuming that our previous conviction was there because we knew old facts. Kailangan bigyan natin ng excuse ang isip natin. And mobility is one of those excuses. Yes, takot tayo. Pero yung mobility, umaakyat na uli ngayon eh. Yung vaccinations, umaakyat na uli ngayon eh. Carlos was saying, 400 to 450,000? Actually, we got up to about 700,000, 650,000. There was a day when we did that. And true, 60 to 70% of Metro Manila is now vaccinated. Last year, we hit 70% foot traffic in the malls. December of 2020. Ilan ang vaccinated nun? Halos wala. Today, by the time December hits, 60 to 80% of Metro Manila will be vaccinated. Sa tingin nyo, ilan ang laman ng mall sa Pasko? Barring another surge. Okay, I'm like knocking on wood, hindi mangyari yun. Kasi baka naman mamaya hindi na Delta, Lambda, Sigma. Di ba? Baka may ganung variant. Hopefully not. But if it doesn't happen, how much in terms of mobility will we have by the end of this year? Sabi nga ng Ayala Health, dapat hindi na natin binibilang ang infections eh. Mali yung pagbilang ng infections, it just spooks you. At dapat ang binibilang, ilan ang na-hospital, ilan ang namamatay. Because that's what's relevant. Ilan ang na-hospital, ilan ang namatay. In the last surge, April, ilan ang fatality rate mo? 1%. Ngayon, 0.4. Kasi vaccinated na yung tao eh. Ang problema, may mga namatay na kilala mo. Yun ang problema eh. Hindi mo computed yung statistics. Kasi may kilala ka, kaya natakot ka. The time has come when we have to live with this virus. It will not go away. We will have to live with it. And, ito yung sinasabi ko. I actually saw Carlos also flash this, but I'll probably decide to discuss it in some other way. This is what happened to Indonesia. Kagaya ng India, sila yung foremost na nagbigay ng surge ng Delta. Diba sila yun eh? The two top countries that got hit with a real surge in the Delta virus. The Delta variant of Corona. Pero nakontrol nila eh. Napabagsak nila yung infections. Yung hospitalizations, kinaya ng kanilang hospital system. So ano nangyari? Lumipad yung market. So ano sinasabi ko? Iba. Yung discussion ko, iba kay Carlos. Ako yung discussion ko ganito. This is a good chance for us to do copying. Di ba? Parang mag-e-exam ka. Ay yung exam mo, tiningnan mo, teka lang, may kaibigan ako, Indonesia. Itong nangyari sa kanya. Nung bumaba yung infections niya, di ba? Umakyat yung market, sumipa. dapat mangyari din dito yan. Hintayin mo pa bang mangyari yan bago ka mag-commit? Copying na tayo. We know that India and Indonesia had a pop in their markets. When we get down to herd immunity, we will see that pop as well. How come we won't be able to copy what they've already done? I call it 2020 vision. And 2020 vision is even a lot clearer when you look at it from hindsight. When you look at it from hindsight. And what are the other things that push this? OFW remittances. We're not just up from 2020, we're now up from 2019, which is pre-pandemic levels. And many people forget this already. How about our demographic variable? How about our demographic dividend? The sweet spot. Nagkalimutan na ba yan? That's still here. It's still the basis for why HSBC and Goldman Sachs would say we're gonna be in the top 30 economies of the world by 2050. Nandiyan pa din yan. We still have the best demographic distribution. Now, one thing happened within the pandemic that further improved. Kasi gumanda pa yung tinatawag nating age dependency ratio. Yung 65 and up, hindi masyado nadagdagan. Tapos bumagal pa yung growth nung nasa baba, yung 0 to 4. Na-control yung population eh. So what am I saying? The base will now have to support a lesser number of people. The base is widened, but that base that's employed, that can be financially contributing to the economy, will now have to support an old age group and a young age group that is actually lowered in terms of numbers. So this demographic dividend will go for us in the next 2 to 3 years. And I'm not kidding you, by the end of the year, hindi na ako maghihintay ng next year eh. Unlike Carlos, I'm looking at December already. I'm not looking at 2022. Why? Talaga ang bigat ng revenge spending eh. Ang bigat ng revenge spending. The revenge spending is going to be there because there's pent-up demand. There is accumulated savings. Yung mga hindi lumabas, hindi nag-travel, hindi kumain, hindi bumili ng damit, hindi bumili ng sapatos, hindi mo bili ng kotse. Sa tingin nyo, hindi nila gagawin by 2022? So hindi na ako maghihintay ng 2022. Kailangan ngayon pa lang, pumosisyon na ako. I don't know if you're mobile, ladies and gentlemen, but Greenbelt opened the largest LV store, flagship store in the country. Yung naka-board up, hindi nyo alam, paglabas, LV pala. LV. Alam nyo ba opening day kung ilan ang benta nung LV store? Ayoko na lang sabihin, pero medyo shocking. Shocking yung benta. Parang tinalo pa yung mga initial investments ng lahat ng mutual fund sa buong bansa nung araw na yun. Because people, our ladies, love their LVs. Yung revenge spending na yan, mangyayari yan. And when that happens, that pop in the economy will follow. The peso-dollar exchange rate, it's not all that bad because it's increasing. It's because it's supporting your merchandise and external trade performance. Year-on-year growth. Sumipa na yan eh. Bumaba lang because of the new surge. But after the surge really simmers down, you will see brisk movements in our trade and manufacturing numbers. Yung PMI na tinatawag, positive since September of last year. How about build? From 8 months of last year, we're up 45%. Now, if people say, Rex, syempre, 2020, talaga namang walang nangyari. O sige, 2019 natin i-compare. 2019, up pa rin tayo ng 28% for the first 8 months of the year. So if all of that, roads, bridges, rail, even a subway, there will be a Grand Central Station in Quezon City between Trinoma and SM North EDSA. Pag lumabas yan lahat, sa tingin nyo anong presyo ng stocks? Ano ang kita ng mga kumpanya? At ano ang presyo ng real estate? Will you wait for next year? Ang sasabihin ng iba, hindi, Rex, boss, may eleksyon eh. Wow! Hanggang ngayon, hindi nyo pa rin alam na ang ekonomiya, ang velocity of money in the Philippines will always be positive in an election year. These are all the first halves of election years in the country. Whoever the candidates are, wala akong pakialam kung sinong kandidato. Basta ang alam ko, an election year is good for the economy. Every time there's an election year, it's always going to be a positive movement. So guys, if I complete the picture, what is that telling you? Pabalik na tayo dun sa before the drop. Pabalik na tayo dun sa before the drop. So ano ang feeling ng iba? Parang natulog ka lang pagising mo, bumalik ka na eh. Di ba sayang? Sana, nung bumagsak pala, nag-ipon ka na ng tuloy-tuloy. Ano na kaya yung presyo ngayon? Di ba? Nung ang SOLDIVO pa, nag-low 60s pa yan eh. Nag-low 60s yan. So ngayon, mas matapang na tayo. Don't you see yourself doing that? You're braver and you come up with big investments when the coast is clear. You could have done that the other way around. As Warren Buffett would say, invest when there's blood on the streets, but it's always easier said than done. But it's always easier said than done. And you know, history repeats itself. Hindi dapat i-challenge mo na yung history mo. Dapat balikan mo na ito. So let me give you tips on investing at a time of growth and strong recovery. Number 1, never wait for a confirmation and a consensus. I will tell you, when there is a consensus, there is a confirmation, mahal na yan. You still get value today because people are still skeptical. Sinabi ni John Templeton yan. Di ba? Bull markets are born on pessimism. They grow on skepticism. That is where we are today. We're skeptical. They mature on optimism, pag agreed na lahat. And then they die on euphoria when everybody is like overexcited. Will you wait for those times? Stick to asset classes with strong recovery potential. Yung mga ibang asset classes, tumakbo na eh. So yung patakbo pa lang, dapat doon ka. And I'll tell you, makikita nyo yung sinabi ni Carlos kanina, yung cyclical stocks. So tingnan mo yung laman ng funds mo. If I'll tell you, I've been discussing it with the management team of Rampver, our business development officers. All the more I tell people, teka lang, lalo akong matapang magbenta ng SOLDIVO ngayon kasi yung sinasabi ni Carlos na cyclical stocks, yun ang hawak natin eh. Yun ang magre-recover. Always go for value. Alam niyo, maraming tao, they invest when it's already a recovery. You invest at the time of the highest value. And what's the time of the highest value? It is when our prices are still lower. It is when NAVs are still lower than what they should be. Diversify. Asset allocation always works. Kaya ayaw naman namin ng putting all your eggs in one basket. And then be patient. Alam nyo, pwedeng mali ako eh. Nag-invest kayo ngayon. Next year, nagkaroon ng iba-ibang variant. Tumagal pa. You know, when a lot of people say that, when the markets drop this year, sabi nila, Rex, akala ko ba recovery na 2021? So, their idea was disillusionment. Their idea was frustration and disappointment. Alam nyo, baliktad na baliktad eh. Because you know what? I mean, the guys from Rampver are here. And some of you are my clients. Some of you, I talk to. Ano lagi kong sinasabi? Ang galing nga eh, medyo tumagal. Nagkaroon ako ng chance mag-accumulate. O, di ba baliktad? Humaba eh. Bumagsak pa eh from January to May eh. Binigyan ako ng chance to accumulate more. Yung iba, ang basa, wow, disappointment, disillusionment. Kala ko ba recovery na? Ang basa ko, another 6 months to add on to it. Para bago mag-recover, mas marami akong karga. It depends on what emotion you bring onto the table, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I'm not gonna say it's all a matter of SOLDIVO funds. I always tell people, let us strategize. Let us look at the best options. So I'll tell you, on the fixed income side, there's the SOLDIVO bond fund. Sinabi naman sa inyo ni Miguel kung paano yan nakapoised to recover because of yung laman niya sa kanyang portfolio. And then there's also an equity fund. An equity fund is the strategic growth fund. Sinasabi ko nga, ang laman yan, more cyclical, more traditional, yan ang magre-recover sa second wave. Nauna na yung mga retail essential, technology and telco. Ang laman nito mostly cyclical and banks Di ba? So yan ang papalo. If you want a little more in terms of risk, syempre, nandyan ang alpha opportunity. And then pag gusto mo ng balance, yung Unicap Diversified Growth Fund. So makikita nyo, nakahilera lahat yan and it matches a particular risk position or risk appetite. SOLDIVO Bond Fund, Atram Unicap is a balanced fund. SOLDIVO Strategic Growth Fund is an equity fund. And Atram Alpha Opportunity is an alpha strategy fund. So makikita nyo talagang ayos na ayos yan. Now some people will tell me, Rex, saan ba pinakamaganda dyan? Bakit ka kailangan mamili? Ang minimum ng mga yan, tigi 1,000 lang di ba? Di dapat mag-apportion ka. Tapos every month, dagdagan mo lahat. You don't have to put everything in one basket. Yan ang problema ng Pinoy. Parang pusta One time, big time, parang pumupusta. No. You start and you make it a continuous discipline, a continuous habit. As far as my talk is concerned, that is about it. Nagpapasalamat po kami sa Rampver that you are our ka-RFFs and I hope that you will really allow us to be one with you, to handhold you into this journey. It's really sometimes a challenge, especially as we deal with behavior. But at the end of the day, we can do it together as a community. And when you do that, the future is going to be sealed. This is a great time to increase our level of commitment and involvement, and the time to invest is now. Maraming salamat po and blessings always.